Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 grueling days, family man, businessman, and entrepreneur Phil Galfond is down $439,000 to the mysterious European who I imagine sitting there in his basement typing away like a Terminator as he dominates Phil during the Galfond Challenge so far, guys. It's been 8 days of play, 5,700 hands of 25,000 hands total been played. Phil is down $439,817.14. Most of us in that position would be freaking out. We'd be bashing our heads in. We'd be going crazy and going, oh my God, I lost all my money. But luckily, Phil Galfond is showing us why he's got that mama mentality needed to be able to come back in a challenge like this and end up victorious. He posted something that we're going to get into later on Twitter. His wife, Farrah, also chimed in, and listen, man, these two are a cute couple. I like following these two. They're sticking together through thick and through thick as Phil battles this European wonder kid, VeniVedi. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what happened each day of the match this past week. We're going to go over some hands as well. We're going to talk about if Phil should think about quitting or what can Phil do from here to potentially have a chance to take this thing down. We're going to go over how he's feeling, and I'm going to tell you if I think he's got a chance to come back in this challenge. Now, if you missed it, episode 1 was last week of the Galfond Challenge series, and I'm going to be doing these every single Saturday for the entire challenge. I also put something up on Twitter. I said, should I start a new weekly show where I cover a range of topics about talking pot limit Omaha, whether it's from basic to expert level stuff, to help people get more familiar about the game, but also give me a chance to talk about the great game, because I've been getting fired up lately going over it. So let me know what you think, and I'd love to see the feedback. We got some ideas. This Monday coming up, I got a special treat, guys. I got my buddy Dr. GTO, aka Dylan Weissman. He's been on a few of my podcasts before, done commentary with him. I brought him with me for Live at the Bike World Series of Poker, one of the most phenomenal poker minds that I know right now. Great teacher as well too. He came on and we got into deeply about Phil Galfond's game, man. He was spitting knowledge. I was kind of talking. I'm understanding. I'm asking questions because he's been heavy in the lab recently, studying, trying to become as great as he can be at this great game. He joins me on Monday. We're going to talk more about it. It's a lot of strategy, but I think you guys are really going to like it, so tune in then. You know, I think about Dylan, right? He's the guy that fires me up when I want to get fired up to play pot limit Omaha. I talk with him. He starts going, yeah, turn here, 75, 60. I'm like, I just start speaking. He starts talking about future equities, starts talking about game value, and my heart starts burning inside where I want to play the great game. So I've been playing a lot. Listen, man, I'm getting ready for Galfond. I'm telling you, at the end, I might need to take this guy down too, VeniVedi style. You guys know what I'm saying? No, maybe. We'll see. You never know. This is challenge 1 of 6 challenges. This first challenge is going to be played 25,000 hands total. At the end of the 25,000 hands, whoever's up the most amount of money wins a side bet. Phil Galfond put up 200,000. VeniVedi puts up 100,000. Whoever wins takes that total. That's what we're looking at here. Phil is showing, Phil's challenge here is to show that he still has what it takes to win at the great game against the best players in the entire world. His challenge is trying to get more players on his poker site, Run It Once Poker, where this challenge is being played. And his challenge is to look this pressure in the face and say, I'm going to overcome it, and I'm going to dominate, and I'm going to make myself and my family some money. All right, so we're going to get into the hands. We got some really, really sick, really fun hands I'm excited to talk about today. And we're going to take a look at the day so far and sort of how things went for Phil each day. As you can see, day 4, Phil loses 17,544. Phil actually got up money a little bit during this session of about 53,000 euro, but unfortunately could not pull through, and VeniVedi had another winning day. Day 5, Phil got absolutely crushed here, guys. As you can see, down $155,000. The day was not going his way at all. He was actually down a little bit more, but mounted a little comeback at the end there. Day 6, he almost got it, guys. Almost $13 he's down. He fought hard, but unfortunately, even some days you just can't fucking win, can you? You're down to $13 there. Day 7 and day 8 just got done getting into those matches as well, and those were some crazy matches, a lot of cool hands. Unfortunately for Phil, he lost $52,000 and $60,000, bringing himself to a grand total of negative $439,817. So guys, for these hands, I got to give a big shout out to Moonlight Master MF, who's putting up highlights. Subscribe to his YouTube channel right now, link in the description. This guy's posting highlights from every day. I just got done taking in 7 and 8, get a little refreshed. I found some pretty sick hands, some sexy calls, some real cool plays, And let's just get right into it here, guys. All right, let's start off here strong here. We're going to take a look. Phil Galfond on the button. Raises up to 4, 5, 8, 7. Gets called by the ace-queen. 6, 10 by VeniVedi in the big blind. And Phil is going to decide he gets to check or bet here. It's a two-ation bet. He does have the 2 backdoor straight draws. If you guys maybe missed that 4, 5 there, you got to pay attention to that. The 2, 3 is the backdoor, but unfortunately, there is a higher straight on board. Phil decides to check here. I probably like to check back here with this hand. I think it's just a little too weak to bet as a standard, but Phil does decide to bet. VeniVedi, you can see his hand, ace, queen, 6, 10. This is a very normal call for you out there. You have 2 pair. Some people might think about check raising here, but I think I like to just check call here. Turn comes down. It's the 9. Now, Phil does turn one of those backdoor straight draws, but you guys got to remember, if he does make the straight here, even on the jack, your opponent crushes you if they got the queen. The river comes down, and it's going to check to Phil. Now he's got a decision. He's got the reverse blockers with the 4, 5. He have the 7, 8 as well, too. But unfortunately, what happens sometimes is when you sometimes make a little bit out of line bet on the flop, that leads to an out of line bet on the turn, potentially. You compound that by getting to the river where you decide to make a big bluff when you could have not got yourself in that situation. For VeniVedi, he's got the 2 pair here with the queen blocker in his hand. He's basically thinking here, okay, what can my opponent be bluffing here with? Would he bluff me here? What does my hand look like? Ultimately, you flip a coin. Sometimes you call, sometimes you fold. VeniVedi goes with his read, snaps his finger, waves a little magic in the air, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to make the call, and he's going to take down a pretty nice sized pot, $25,000 here after tanking down. And first big pot goes his way of this video. All right, we're switching corners here. My man has the whole cards up, and I love this guy that did these highlights. This guy put in a lot of work to do this, man. Big shout out to this guy. I kind of want to donate to him, so please let me know. So Phil Galfond here, calls a raise. Left-hand table here, guys. Pay attention. Get your head in games. Calls a raise. Flops gut shot to the nut straight, and he's got the queen-eye flush draw. You can see VeniVedi's got top 2 pair right now with just top 2 pair backdoor straight draw. Turn's going to come, now it's going to be that deuce here, so VeniVedi's still going to have a pretty strong hand, but on this board texture, guys, when you have 2 pair, I mean, listen, there's not many good cards for your hand on the turn. Somehow the deuce of hearts is one of the best cards. You probably want to see a 7 or an 8 or maybe a deuce of diamond or something like that, but this is going to be a pretty Hollywood card for you. Phil still has that over straight draw with the flush draw, but he's got the potentially higher over 2 pair now with the deuce pair in the board there on the bottom in his bottom card. Point in the board, his bottom card, huh? River comes down. Backdoor Bangkok comes in. Ding! You guys know what that means. Backdoor nut flush potentially is in the building. Now Phil decides to take a little peculiar size here. He goes with the quarter pot as the blocker bet here. So what hands could Phil be bluffing her with? What hands should he bluff with? I guess he thinks that hands that, you know, have the 9-10 with the spades are good candidates to bluff here. So he's got the 10 in his hand. He's got the jack in his hand. Might bluff. I mean, I don't know, man. This seems a little... The sizing 2K, right? I get where it's coming from, but I wouldn't try this at home, guys. And when you're in VeniVedi situation, your opponent bets 2,100, and it's probably a spot where, you know, you're not really sure what's happening. You're going to make the call here with the 2 pair. You can beat the 9-10s. You beat spades as well, too. If they had a backdoor flush draw, would they really bet that size? That's kind of what you got to think there. But overall, I'm going to be throwing in the call with my 2 pairs, and if they bet this size with a flush, I'm going to be praising the Lord, and we're moving on to the next hand. Back at it right here, guys. I'm in the other corner right now. Turn your head to the other corner right now. So here you can see Phil Galfond calls a 3-bet with the 10-8-5-5. Do not try this at home, kids. Calls the flop bet. Turn. Bingo. He has the top full house right here. And you can see in VeniVedi's hands, he's got the ace-6-8 queen. So now we go to the flop. VeniVedi makes his normal continuation bet. Very small size. Now Phil calls. Turn comes down. It's the 10. VeniVedi has the perfect cards to block the full house here. If you're going to pick a hand to bluff here, it's either going to be one of those high spades with an 8 or a 6 in your hand, meaning you block the flush and you block some of the full houses, or this is a beautiful hand right here when you bet the turn with the 6-8 and your opponent calls you here. A lot of times you're going to be continuing through on the river because you're going to hope to get him off that flush or hope to potentially get him off trips if he does have trips somehow here. So VeniVedi bets. Phil's going to go ahead. He's going to play it Clyde. He's going to play it cool. He's going to go ahead, just make the call. River comes down. It's the 4. Phil Galfond is in his hand saying, please, praise the Lord, let this guy have a flush. VeniVedi's got the 6-8. Break river card for him. If you're going to continue your story, this is a good card to have. Like I said, you're going to want to be bluffing here sometimes. Not always against players who you just don't think can fold flushes when they have it, but most players aren't going to also be slow playing the 10-8 here. Most players are going to let you know, the weaker players are. So for the most part, when you do find yourself in a spot like this against a recreational player and you have the 6-8 and you think he is more likely to fold than usual, I would go ahead and make this bluff. But against some guys who, if I just think it's very likely they're not going to fold a flush or not even a 10, I might not bluff here. So sometimes against some players, you got to go with your instincts in that situation. But I'd probably be doing a little bit less bluffing and more value betting against those type of players. But Phil calls $40,000 pot. Goes Mr. Galfond's way. Let's get it. All right, here we go, guys. Phil calls it 3-bet. Now, this hand is just, this shows you how aggressive this unusual lines, really random, weird things happening in this match, guys. Weird things are happening out here. Pay attention, right? Phil calls the 3-bet. He checks back the board. 8-8-3, right? What do we got here? 8-3, full house. We like that hand. Turn comes down, 4 diamonds now. We got the flush out there, right? Is it likely one of our guys has a full house here? Most likely not. So VeniVedi checks again. Phil Galfond checks back. River comes a 3. Now, right, you don't expect a lot of money to be getting in here on a river like this, right? If most people had an 8-3, they're going to let you know. If they have the 3-4, they might bluff the turn. So there's, not many strong hands for value here. They're going to be looking to put a lot of money in on this river. Phil Galfond gets checked to, bets half pot. And now VeniVedi is going to think about it, and he's going to go for a little check. Raise a daisy here. So he makes it up to 9,000 right now. And now you're sitting here in Galfond's spot, and you're saying, what the hell's going on? This guy checked 3 streets with a full house? I don't believe this story. Phil ships it all in right in his face. Now, Phil's saying he's got the 8-4 quads. I don't know what's happening here, guys. I mean, they both checked down 3 times. Your guess is going to be as good as mine at home when it went down here, but this is definitely a hand I'm asking Mr. Galfond for. It's an incredible hand, incredible play, and very unusual. Very, very unusual. Things are getting tricky. It's these day 8 hands, and you're going to see things like that take place, man. People just playing these really sly games, really kind of going for things, going for some fancy plays sometimes, protecting some of their hands in some spots. It's, it gets wild, man. I love it. All right, here we go, guys. Left-hand side. Wait, I got to move my head again. Here we go, guys. Left-hand side. Here we go. Okay, left-hand table. Phil's going to 3-bet King 6-9 with a 6-9 of clubs. Don't love it. They are very deep here. You can see, guys, 200 big blinds deep. I'm not going to be 3-betting the King 6-9 out of position in a ring game. You know, this is the hand I'm probably going to want to call for the most part. If I'm in position, maybe against a weaker player, I might 3-bet to isolate against them. But overall, the King 6-9 here, this deep. Heads up, maybe 3-bet, maybe call. I think either option is okay, but I like the call more. But he does 3-bet. VeniVedi's got this beautiful little rundown, little kind of connected rundown. 6-2-5-4 gets you in a lot of trouble. I call this, what is it, like a Mona Lisa type of hand, better than it looks. And he does call when Phillips bets the flop there. So he's got, what do we got here, guys? We got bottom pair, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight flush draw, yeah. And we got a gutter, but it's a gutter on the way to Mexico, guys. Actually, it is a gutter state. It's a gutter literally trapped in Mexico. If that 7 comes, gutter being got the Mexican straight, 6-9, 9-jack, obviously gonna make a couple higher straight, so that gives us the Mexican straight. And you guys know you do not want to be putting a lot of money in the pot when you got the Mexican straight, because most of the time your opponent's gonna have a higher straight, right? But as played, VeniVedi does hit a dream card. The 3 gives him a another backdoor straight draw if that deuce comes here. And Phil's going to go ahead, bomb it with a gutter. You can see he's got 6-9. He needs that 7 for a straight. And he's still got the over pair, getting himself into quite a little pickle here with the King 6-9. And that's what's going to happen sometimes when you do 3-bet this kind of marginal hand. You flop a gutter with an over pair. You decide to make 1 bet. The turn, you pick up one of your best cards. You decide to make another bet. Then you get called, and now you're like, oh my God, praise to the Lord. Please don't hit, because you try to think what your opponent has, and you have the 6-9 in your hand, which means you probably block some of his straight card outs in his hand, which is a hand he might be calling with, like an 8-7-9 or an 8-9 jack is the kind of hand I would put my opponent on in a situation like this. So when the 6 comes on the river, even though I have the 9, I think it is likely that VeniVedi either has the 7-9 or 9 jack here, and I'm not feeling pretty good about my hand. We do block some of the 2 pairs as well, but I do think when it comes to betting or checking here, I'm going to check. If my opponent bets, I'm going to have to reevaluate, and most likely Pray the guy's got the Jack 10, right? The 9 Jack 10, 8 Jack 10 type hand, something like that with a gutter, one pair. But as played, VeniVedi checks back the Mexican straight. So he knew the motto. You don't want to put a lot of money with Mexico. And in this situation, could you say, would Phil Galfond have a better straight? I don't know. I don't know if he has that 5-7. I don't know if he's going to have a 7-9 there, right? Could he be trapping there? Maybe he could be trapping there. Maybe he's setting that. Maybe he doesn't want to get check raised off this hand. Very interesting check back here. They are a little deeper stacked, so I can kind of understand. Maybe he wants to preserve the lead as well, too. He was up 93,000 in this point. I don't know if that plays a part in this decision to check back here, but I'm curious to see what you guys think about this one, because I do think there are hands for value that Phil would call the river with. We don't block any 7s or 9s in our hand as Veni, so it's likely our opponent is going to have one of those type of cards, potentially with a 2 pair or a set in their hands. So very interesting check back, interesting play, but it goes VeniVedi's way. All right, here we go, guys. 3-bet from Galfond. Little loose here with the queen 6, 6-5 double suited, getting out of line. VeniVedi calls with that 10, 4, 4, 8, 3 hearts. Don't not try this at home. You guys got to fold. You can't see. Let me move my camera. You can't see. Do not call the 3-bets with the 10, 8, 8, 4 guys. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're at. We're going to let this one go if we're playing Pop Minimum. The great game out there. And the queen 6, 6, 5. I swear to God, I see you 3-betting this hand out the win. Or on one of these global poker sites or something like that. I'm coming for you, okay? Don't be doing that at home. Phil Galfond does. He flops the miracle. But you can see, guys, our hand, right? We got the set. We got the dream flop for our hand. But we blocked the 5. It's gonna have some of those 2-pair combinations our opponent's gonna have. And our hand's so vulnerable, and a lot of money goes in here, guys. Any heart. 4, 7, 8, 9, 3. I mean, listen, we're not loving it. So even when we flop a good hand with a hand like this, we're not loving it. It's why you don't 3-bet, put a lot of money with the queen 6, 6, 5. Boom, we just explained it. Let's get it. He pots the flop. VeniVedi's got that gutter there, guys, and he can also potentially bluff on some 3s and some 2s, I'm sure, in his mind. But I don't think so, because, well, maybe, I mean, that's probably his plan. He's going to hope Phil doesn't. We can kind of think more about that another time. But 10, 4, 4, 8, 3 hearts. Opponent bets pot. We're going to have reverse implied odds. Even when we do it our hearts sometimes. We hit our 7. We might not even get paid off. Close spot, I can understand the call, but I wouldn't hate folding that hand also. But when you get yourself into some spots with a 10, 4, 4, 8, you know what? Things like this are going to happen. And now watch this $10,000 pot. Listen, look at the pot. $17,000 in Phil stack. $11,000 pot. What are you going to do here, right? You got the set. Your opponent calls. You're hoping now, please don't have that 4-7. We got the 5 and the 6, which are going to block some of the 4-7s. But if our opponent has a strong hand, like a 2-pair, what can we do here, right? We want him to call the 2-pair, right? We want to pour money with 2-pair. But would they ever raise us here if we potentially bet small with that 2-pair, or maybe some of their draws that would just call the turn? If we did otherwise, maybe looking at like we've given him some fold equity here with some marginal hands that he might fold the turn. Now he turns into a bluff. So Phil gets real sexy with it. 2,700 into 10.8K. I mean, listen, I got to figure out what the guy was thinking when he came up with this bet size right here, okay? So look what's going on here, all right? We got 14,000 behind here. VeniVedi takes the bait, just like Teddy KGB in that movie called Rounders that a lot of us got started playing in. Takes the bait. He's got those perfect blockers you see with the 4-4. But this is why you fold the 10-4-4-8 pre-flop. It's because you get yourself in these spots where you got to end up bluffing with the pocket 4s and praying to hit the river, and your opponent doesn't have a higher flush. Unfortunately, he's punished. Phil Galfond takes down the $45,000 pot, showing you the reasons why you don't play the 10-4-4-8 pre-flop to 3-bets or ever raise it. All right, oh boy, here we go. 3-bet pot here. You can see King, 4-6 with the 1 suit, Ace-Jack, 4-7, calling the 3-bet at the bottom. Both plays, do not mind. They're 100 big blinds deep. Flop comes down. VeniVedi, you can see he's got the backdoor quad draw and the open end straight draw. He also has that King of Clubs blocker in his hand, guys. We know how valuable blockers are in the great game of Potman Omaha. We look at Phil's hand, not loving it here, guys. We see the double gutter. One's to the nut straight. One goes over to Mexico. And not really. But the backdoor, I missed the backdoor straight draw, the nut straight draw. I mean, you know, unlikely. We got to call that pot size bet. We're not banking on that backdoor straight draw, but it's something to potentially think about. Our opponent bets the pot here, and I don't mind just laying this one down. I think we can call one, but what's going to happen is if you end up calling here at home, when you do call a 3-bet with the Ace-Jack 4-7, which I do not recommend at most games, you're going to want to continue here, and then you're potentially going to make some mistakes on later streets in terms of what cards you're deciding to bluff, or potentially when you make a straight and the flush comes out there and you don't want to fold. So be very careful with continuing to large bet size aggression with these kind of marginal draw type of hands. And even when you do hit an offsuit 6, your opponent still might have the backup strong hand, like a set with a flush draw or a strong flush draw with some type of straight draw themselves as well. Or they might just fold because they don't really have a hand that can pay it off. So kind of in a dicey spot no matter what, unless you hit that bingo dream card. But as played, Phil is going to go ahead and make the call here. And we can't really learn too much about our opponent's hands for the most part, except VeniVedi's probably putting him on a range of flush draws and a range of straight draws with some of those queens. Turn comes down the 9, and this is sort of what you're going to see happen here, is that you're going to get yourself some dicey spots with the ace-jack 4-7. VeniVedi goes to that little 26.99, so he decides to bet there with the king of clubs. He can definitely get Phil off of some queens that called the flop. Also, any gut shots, or if they go a 6-7-3 type hand or anything like that, he might fold the turn as well too. But pretty dicey sizing there from VeniVedi. River comes down. It's the 9, pairs the board now. So when you're VeniVedi and our opponent just calls that turn, we got to be thinking about what does he have. We're probably going to be thinking he has a flush, marginal flush, sometimes slow playing a big hand like a nut flush or potentially the second nut flush. But we do have that king of clubs, so it's less likely our opponent is going to have a strong flush in his hand, even though the jack is basically the queen in this scenario. But sometimes weaker players don't even realize that the jack is actually the queen I flush here, and they see it in their mind differently. It's a very odd phenomenon. It's actually pretty interesting when you think about it. But yeah, in this scenario with the king 4-6, we bet the turn, we get called. We're praying we get the showdown. We're praying our opponent has a slow play 2-pair on the flop, or potentially has a 3-5, queen 3 potentially as well too. So now we're in VeniVedi's spot, and we check, assuming that, you know, sometimes we're going to get a lot of checks backs, but now that board paired, so some of those hands might decide to turn into bluffs as well too, because now they got counterfeited. So checks to Phil. Phil goes ahead and makes the bluff here. And now what would you do at home here? Your opponent has told a pretty convincing story. Would they bet the pot size with all their flushes here? We don't necessarily know, right? That's going to be something we're only going to know in game when we see enough hands at showdown here. So pretty weird spot to sort of make an assumption now. You could say, okay, well, is my opponent going to call all his flush draws on the flop to the pot size bet? So maybe he only has a little bit stronger flush draws, right? So it kind of takes away some hands, and he might fold some straight draws. So it looks to me like my opponent has a flush here, honestly. And I don't like it, but it also does counterfeit some hands. So I think here you flip a coin. If your opponent's on the more bluffy side, maybe you call a bit more than you fold. Sometimes you got to lay a hand down. VeniVedi decides this is one of his best hands, potentially to call here with, and or he just had a read in the moment. He thought maybe Phil was getting a little bit too bluff happy, and with that sizing on the turn, he puts him in a spot where he's got to call the river. Either way, he reads his fucking soul like the Terminator that he is, and he takes him down. Boom, $40,000 pot his way. Now the question comes up, guys, should Phil quit? Should he keep playing? He's down so much money. And I mean, listen, you're Phil Galfond. You've been here before. I think you keep going after it. You don't give up yet. Phil's doesn't seem like he's got that giving up attitude. Maybe we get down that $1 million, $2 million, then we start thinking about potentially quitting. But right now, we don't give up. What can Phil do from here to try to get back in this game, guys? He's gonna probably need some help from his friends, from people that are watching the game, someone that can pick up something on his game, that might be studying it. Because right now, it's looking tough, right? It's hard to go on Phil's side right now. I got faith in our guy. He can do this, but at the same time, we need to see some winning going on here before we can get confident in what's happening, because if he starts coming back a little bit, VeniVedi might tighten. You never know, right? The guy's got adjustments on adjustments. This guy's a seasoned veteran, man, so I need to see some winning from Phil, and I really hope we do see some winning from Phil. I'm rooting for him hard here. So let's talk about how he's feeling, guys. He put up here another losing day for me in the first Galfond challenge. A lot of you seem worried about me. Please don't be, motherfuckers. And he said the first Galfond challenge is going as planned. I'm lost almost every session. I'm down nearly 400,000 euro. Being down 20 buy-ins, it may be unlikely for me to come back and win this challenge. So that isn't my goal. Chasing your losses sets you up for failure. There's no way for me to earn 20 buy-ins over the next week or two through good play alone. Attempting to get even means attempting to be lucky. With that mindset, it's easy to push the action, focusing on the hope of hitting a big hand. Hopes like that take up space in your mind and stand in the way of thinking through hands properly. It is important during a downswing to mentally reset, accept your new reality, and make the most of it. I see my current reality as an opportunity to set an example for players who are following the challenge. I'm proud of the way I kept my composure. I feel that I keep getting stronger as we go on, despite dealing with disappointment after disappointment. My results are out of my control, but I still prefer to have a goal for motivation. My goal and my plan is to come out ahead from the starting point in this challenge onward. I'm going to continue to keep a positive attitude, to work on my game, and to have fun battling against a great player. Please enjoy the motherfucking show. Philip C. Galfond. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend has spoken. Mr. Galfond mentality, Mamba mentality himself. I mean, man, listen, the guy knows how to give a fucking speech. He's like rowing this up, man. He knows the crowd's watching. And, I mean, to be honest, he didn't say he's going to win. You know, he said he's going to play. So let's see the show the man's got to put on for us. I can't wait. Very wise words, man. You know, mentally take that step back, mentally reset. I know I haven't always done that in my long career. At this point in time, taking the step back, refreshing, letting those fundamentals reset, get that woo-joo out of my mind. Run bad. I run so bad. I'm the worst player, run bad of all time. Whatever, you guys know how it fucking is. We get like that a lot. So man, that's what we got. Week 2 in the books here. I'm excited, fired up. Let's go play. Let's go watch. Let's see what happens. This is the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. Be back on Monday. Peace out.